But at least it's not like those cooking recipes where it's like you want to know just the recipe and you don't really care about anything else, and they give you like a 500-word story about how their grandmother was excommunicated from Belgium. Yeah. And
you're like, I just want to make caramel brownies. I'm already hooked by the picture from Pinterest.
Yeah. You got me here.
Just gimme.
I'm not here for the history lesson. I want to know how to make the brownies.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I'm glad that's the same across the continents.
All right, well then we're going to play the intro, Henry.
Cool.
Don't talk. Don't.
It's too bad that Henry can't hear
It's
it.
high-speed business at a record pace.
Get 70 miles per gallon on this one. This is ship that made a
Yes. Haas Chap in the house with the fast ones. Here we go. Yes, I like this ease into the podcast episode every time now.
Yeah. It's like we were tuning the radio stations.
Yeah.
And there was Gandalf and a few things that appear.
And now we've landed.
And we landed on the
And
hip-hop
this time
station.
we've landed with the Haas Chap, our good friend.
Henry is here. Welcome, Henry.
Hello.
Yeah, if you don't know the Haas Chap, he is the biggest Haas fan in the world.
In the world.
Yeah, and honestly, probably the oldest friend of the show.
By far.
Yeah, and so we made him an honorary correspondent for all things Haas, and
he sent us
beyond.
a drunken video when we requested one. That's what started it.
Yeah. yeah, I did. Yeah. Oh, those heady days.
And as we said last week, the poster that we have, the Silverstone GP poster that is on the wall, is gifted to us by the Haas Chap and signed by him.
It is signed by him.
Yeah.
How many other autographs have you signed, Henry, now that you're getting famous?
None. Literally. I wasn't entirely sure whether or not you were being serious. Like, oh, can we have a signed poster? So I just did one because you said, but then I had to send you blank ones because I was like, I don't actually know if you actually wanted my autograph, or was this just all like some elaborate prank and you're going to expose me on social media as some sort of like big egotistical individual?
No, that video's coming.
We really wanted the autograph, and now that we know it's one of one in the world, that's an expensive collectible.
Yeah. If I see that on eBay,
it'll be under the same store as all of Bottas's trophies.
We have a few blanks, and we can forge them ourselves. Yeah, now that we know what it looks like. Yeah. It's easy.
It's easy enough.
Okay, we're going to get started. I don't know if you saw a couple weeks ago, I started the game with Mike, asking him either or driver questions.
Oh, yes, it's a good one.
I don't know if you caught that episode, Henry.
Yeah.
But we're going to do the same for you, but it's team principal version. So I'll give you two names. You give me who you'd pick. Okay. And then we'll whittle it down to possibly the best team principal ever.
Yeah, we pretty much landed on George Russell with mine, even though I didn't pick him.
Because we wanted to really whittle it down to be like, what would you pick over George? What is the worst thing you could pick that is better than George?
Yeah, exactly. It was a Wendy's bathroom, a bucket of hair. There was a number of things that were better.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting into it. Okay, Andreas Seidel or Matteo Binotto?
Strike me Seidel.
Seidel, okay. Andreas Seidel or Ross Brawn?
Ross Brawn.
Yeah.
Ross Brawn or Christian Horner?
Ross Brawn.
Okay, Ross Brawn or Ottmar Schnappenauer?
Ross Brawn.
Ross Brawn or Gunther Steiner?
Silence.
Gunther Steiner.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gunther Steiner or Toto Wolff?
Gunther Steiner.
Yeah.
Gunther Steiner or Fred Vasseur?
Ooh.
Gunther Steiner.
Yeah, he's getting them right.
He's getting them right.
Gunther Steiner or Zach Brown?
Oh, easy.
Gunther Steiner.
Yep. Gunther Steiner or Lawrence Stroll? These are team principals / owners.
Gunther Steiner. I mean, Lawrence Stroll definitely shouldn't be on that list.
Yeah, he's not really anything. Okay, Gunther Steiner or Ayao Komatsu?
Ayao Komatsu.
Oh, we've arrived.
We have arrived.
Is that the final question?
That was the final question.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that leads us perfectly into what we want to talk about today.
Definitely.
Now that we have the Haas Chap on, we want to do a deep dive kind of into Haas that we've been missing out on this year so far.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to do it without Henry.
Totally.
And so we've been covering all these other things, but there's been a lot of fun stuff around Haas. They've been performing really well.
Killer start to the year.
They have a new team principal. So we want to get into who that team principal is.
Right.
And then we want to talk later on maybe about Henry's predictions about the year, a little bit about what we expect from the team. So I think we get into it. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds awesome to me.
Sounds
Sweet.
good.
Yeah.
Sweet. Where do you want to start? I think I am curious. Henry, you had an opportunity like a month or so ago before the season started. You got to meet everyone at Haas pretty much.
Yeah, like
I was.
the bulk of the stars, at least.
But yeah, basically, I was very privileged to be invited by the title sponsors MoneyGram to take part in the pre-season launch at the new F1 Drive, that karting place that they've got going on in London, to attend a Q&A, and then there was going to be some karting, there was going to be some drinks, some race simulators, and food, and just some. They had
Booze and simulators. Lots of things that mix well. Karting,
Lots
booze,
of things,
simulators.
exceptional amount of things that mix well, because you definitely want to involve driving at an incredibly high speed and alcohol.
Did you get to kart?
Yeah, I was quite lucky. I got 2 karting sessions. I was
Nice.
Before that, Nico, Kevin, and Ayu all set a time. So they put like a marker down for the rest of the guests to try and beat. And I mean,
yeah, good luck.
I mean, it was bloody tricky because they were,
Yeah.
they're obviously seasoned racing drivers.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anywhere near them.
Yeah, and
But-
karting champions, both of them.
Yeah. But one of the things, so you put your race suit on and you go and you have your debrief, so you get safety sort of lecture.
They walk you through the flags and which
all
foot
that sort of
does
stuff.
what, even though you know which one's
Exactly.
gas and brake.
Yeah. Put you in your suit, and then you put your balaclava on, then your helmet on, and then they kind of guide you to your car. But what I didn't notice was a barrier, probably about, 2 foot high, but just high enough for me to not see it, walk into it, and then land face flat on to the floor, like really badly bruising my knee. So
Were you at least helmeted up at this point?
I was
Okay,
really
good,
trying to
good.
like hold in the pain. I'm
Yeah.
fine. I
Wait,
want another
wait.
go.
We're good. We're good.
So you had a full helmet on, and
Full helmet.
Was Kevin
Yeah.
or Nico in the room?
No, they had
Good.
gone to get changed out of their
Race
racing
suits.
suits.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You didn't embarrass yourself in front of the
In front of the drivers.
F1
No,
driver.
thankfully not. I think I did embarrass myself in front of David Croft, though, Crofty, who was
Yeah.
hosting the event.
Wow.
So I think he saw me like completely.
If he mentions
making
some
up to
guy falling on his
tit
face at
myself.
a karting sesh sometime during the year,
Yeah.
during a race,
Be like-
we'll know it's
Yeah,
Henry.
when Lance crashes into the wall at some point, and he's just like, and this reminds me of the chap who fell over a barrier at the F1 karting session at the beginning of the season.
It's funny you say that though, because did you watch any of testing?
I did a little bit, yeah.
So there was a moment, I had it on basically the entire time, just in the background.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where he was talking to Corinne Chandok, and David Croft, he brought it up. He brought the evening up.
You
He
were
was
like-
oh yeah, I was at F1 Drive.
Oh, I did hear this, and
I
he
was
started
with the-
talking about Haas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it turned out that that Ayao Komatsu is like a really good karting driver. That Corinne Chandok has this charity event that he hosts every year, and he gets loads of people in, and Ayao Komatsu is like a seasoned veteran of these
Wow.
events.
That's cool.
And
He's just kicking people's
really
butt,
good
I'm
and
sure.
often wins.
That's amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I wish that he would win and the charity would then go to him. I mean, I don't know what the charity's for, so but a part of me wants to be like, come on, it's a competition.
Yeah.
Take home the cash, Ayao.
So talking about Ayao Komatsu, first off, does he smell good?
He smells divine. If you could imagine a warm summer's day, the grass has been freshly cut, and
wow.
the sweet aroma of an apple pie sitting on a windowsill just wafting.
Wow, he sounds very American.
past your
Yeah, I was
nose.
like, is this not cherry blossoms, but apple pie?
Yeah, apple pie. Apple pie.
It's a bit more British, a bit more American.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's really such a nice guy. I'm very fortunate to meet all three of them and get a picture and have a little chat.
Max
He
met
was
Gunter.
really down to earth, and
Yeah, I briefly got yelled at by Gunter.
Max met Gunter, and it was as we kind of anticipated, or at least hoped it would go.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
did
fun.
you know this story, Henry? Should we have Max
No.
tell you it really fast?
No,
Because
no.
we were at Daytona. But
We
Max,
went to the
go
24
ahead.
hours of Daytona, and we heard Gunter on the speakers because he had been interviewing with like the crowd or whatever.
Yeah.
We started heading back towards the track. It's just a big sea of people, everyone bumping into each other. Mike and his dad are like ahead of me, and out of the crowd, just like this tall Gunter comes right at me, like cell phone in hand. And what did he say to me? I was like, it's the first time I've seen like a celebrity where I yelled in their face. I was like, Gunter! And he was like, just a second. And he points a finger at me, just a second. And then like just marches into the crowd. And I'm off. And I ran and got Mike and his dad. I was like, there was Gunter.
I couldn't believe it, and I think the most startling part of it for us was that we had no idea that Gunter Steiner was tall.
Yeah. He's pretty tall.
He doesn't come across tall on TV and Netflix or whatever. But you see him in person, you're like, he's like 6'3", 6'4" or something. He's a big guy.
oh, so my kind of height then. Oh, all right. I didn't realize actually he was that tall.
I was going to ask, Henry, you're quite tall. So when you stand up next to Nico and Kevin, how tall is Kevin on you?
Yeah, Kevin's little, isn't he?
Nico's like a bit taller.
I want to say Kevin is. I don't know. I want to say he's like 5'9",
Okay.
maybe. I want to say Nico's taller.
Yeah.
I think Nico's nearer like 6'1", I think.
Okay. So he's not
and
that
I was a
big.
bit shorter. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
that's still pretty tall for a racing driver.
Yeah, that's
You know,
definitely around
6 foot
Ocon
plus. Yeah.
territory in George.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tall for a driver. 6+ is
Yeah.
very tall for a driver.
Definitely.
So
We'll have to post these pictures up so that
Yeah,
that
totally.
you have, so that way we can reference Henry's size and scale to the drivers.
okay, so I think we want to keep aiming the conversation towards Ayao Komatsu, the new team principal. We know he smells good. We know he's now good at karting.
Yes.
Like, how do we want to? Do we want to talk about his performance so far this year?
Yeah.
Where his history came from?
Yeah. Do we want to do some backstory and then talk about this year? And-
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Where does Ayao Komatsu's motorsport career start?
Do you want me to
I
take
don't know
that, or
anything.
Henry? Do you want
I
to
know
take it? or
Henry
how do
knows
I-
a bit. Mike
Yeah.
knows a bit. I don't know anything.
Well, why don't I take a little bit of this and then maybe we pass back and forth? But I think that
Yeah.
what if?
I've got Wikipedia open. That's fine.
Yeah, totally. So Ayao is he's Japanese. He grew up in Japan. Initially a MotoGP fan. He was more the appeal of two wheels over four was his first love. He was present for the Japanese Grand Prix where Prost and Senna took each other out as a championship deciding moment.
Oh,
A
really?
really epic thing that took place.
Dang.
Either he was present or he watched it on TV or something, but it's a memory for him that really solidified his love for Formula One.
Really? A good crash.
Yeah.
It's always a crash that brings people into the sport.
But it's also like Lewis and Max. It's
Yeah.
Prost and Senna,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's like the years that people remember.
I don't know what people remember more, the crash or the drama around it.
Yeah,
The
totally.
resulting, we'll see.
Or the Michael.
We'll see.
Michael! He worked through F3 through his college years. He at 18 years old, he moved to the UK. And because he wanted to work in Formula One, he wanted to work in motorsport. And he went to a university in London. And Henry, do you know which London university he went to?
Well, I was just about to ask you that question because it's not in London.
Oh, excuse me. It's in the UK.
It is in the UK, but it's. I'd love for you to try and pronounce it because it's like
it's
the
so
Worcestershire
British.
sauce thing.
Okay, Henry just gave me spelling. He just spelled out the name of the university for me.
Okay.
LOUGHBR Borough.
Loughborough.
Loughborough. Loughborough?
Loughborough.
Loughborough?
Loughborough.
Loughborough? What would you say?
It's Stratford upon Avon. Loughborough.
Loughborough.
Loughborough?
Loughborough. I mean, it wasn't too
Loughborough
far
University.
off, but-
No, Max. Yeah, no, that was not too bad. I mean, it wasn't anything like the sorts of. You remember the guesses that you had of the names of the where I lived, where I came from, and it was like Gunter upon Henley or something.
Yeah. It was really bad. I tapped into my English ancestry right there for that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, Ayao Komatsu. Loughborough.
He went to Loughborough. And through all of his college years, worked as he got a placement, we'll say that. So as he was in school, he got placement, landed at Lotus, but his manager at Lotus had an F3 car, like a classic, an older one.
Cool.
That he ran for fun.
What is his job?
So he was studying to be an engineer.
Engineer, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And his manager, who was running his F3 car on the weekends for fun, invited Ayao to come out and kind of learn the ropes.
Cool.
With some hands-on experience, not just classroom stuff, but like actually out there working on a car.
Yeah.
And that's where he gained all of his initial experience. And through that, ended up working for free all through college for F3 teams.
Wow, just like free unpaid intern.
Yeah.
Going
and
hard.
He met a very important person who would help be a catalyst for his career named Takuma Sato, who is also from Japan.
Okay.
And then would play a big role in his progression from there and his, team alignments and things like that. So, any thoughts or anything that you want to inject that with there, Henry? Or should I keep going?
I mean, it's it's interesting that the fact that he really had a big part to play in Romain Grosjean's career with Lotus, because that's one of the places that Romain Grosjean used to run.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Along with Nelson Piquet Jr.
Oh, nice.
And Fernando.
Oh, wild.
And Fernando.
Yeah, he won a championship with Fernando.
At this point in time, he's had a pretty clear trajectory as to where he's going, doing automotive engineering at university and then going on straight into Formula One, more or less.
Yep.
His
first job was at BAR, British American Racing, with Takuma.
Oh, wow.
So Takuma Sato called him and was like, "Hey, old friend, do you want to join me?"
That's cool.
And BAR, if you guys remember, we've talked about this on the show in the past, is Mercedes. That
became Ross Brawn.
Yes, it went from BAR to Honda to Braun GP to Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, so Ayao Komatsu was responsible for the 8-time constructor championship.
Yes, it wasn't Ross. It was actually Ayao.
When's he going to bring it to Haas? We'll get into that later.
Yes. So, but yeah, he had a stint at BAR, worked at Renault for a decade.
And that's what you said with
Grosjean. So he worked with Grosjean twice.
And Fernando Alonso got a championship.
Yes.
When Ayao was there.
But he was a performance engineer.
Oh, cool.
And he graduated a race engineer a little later in his career, I think somewhere around 2010, 11-ish, which is when Grosjean was on the team. And then Grosjean was let go.
Okay.
After a couple of... He got a reputation early in his career for being a bit unhinged.
Really?
Yeah, a little aggressive and crashing into people. Renault became Lotus. And for a small time before it went back to Renault, it's changed back and forth between the two.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know Renault and Lotus were that closely tied.
In this time period, they were.
Yeah. Okay.
And and then Grosjean came back in 2012 to F1 after a 2-year break after being let go. And that reunited Ayao with Grosjean.
And this time is at Haas.
And no, so from 2012 to 15, Grosjean is working with Ayao as their chief race engineer.
Oh.
And then when Gene and Gunter started Haas, the driver who was hired was Romain Grosjean as the one that they championed as their number one.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, Esteban Gutierrez was his teammate first before K-Mag.
Okay.
And so when they hired Roman, Roman was like, we need Ayao.
I'm bringing Ayao?
Yeah.
Oh.
And
is that common? Does a race engineer often go with a driver?
It's actually usually in the contracts that they can.
Oh.
And in one of the rare cases it's not, is Bono and Lewis.
Oh.
Where Lewis's contract was written specifically to be like, you can't take anyone if you leave.
Oh.
And so that is why Bono is not
Going to
supposedly
Ferrari.
going to Ferrari. We'll see.
Oh, interesting.
We'll
I didn't
see.
know
And
that.
fun
Was
little
Contracts are just
fact.
pieces of paper.
And
Yeah.
fun little fact, an engineer called Mark Slade departed Renault Lotus in around 2011. And it was Ayao who took Mark Slade's position.
Oh, okay.
And guess who Mark Slade's working with now?
Haas.
Haas.
Yeah.
He's working at Haas. He is Kevin Magnussen's race engineer.
Oh,
Oh,
amazing. Really
wild.
cool. That's a cool. I
So
thought
now
like I know that name.
So now he's working for Ayao.
Yeah.
He joined in 2022.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right. He joined in 2022.
Following
Um,
Mazepin's exit, I'm guessing. Or
It
no, that would
was
have been
following-
Mazepin's first year, or is that Kevin
it
Magnussen's
was-
first year?
No, that was Mazepin's exit because 22 was the year where he got the the pole.
Yes. Oh, that's right. With Mick
yeah.
as a teammate. I forget the. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Whoop. It's crazy how many years it's happened since this new reg.
Yeah.
I feel like the new regs are brand new, and then I'm like, wait, it's
no,
actually no, it's been around.
almost 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
It's wild. So Ayao has been at Haas since the beginning.
Yeah, since day one.
That's crazy. I feel like when Gunther was let go, or when he exited Haas, I was let down, of course. And when they brought on Ayao Komatsu, I don't know this guy because I don't dive very deep into like the teams.
Yeah, and you've heard his name when
I've heard his
we've
names a
talked
little
about
bit,
him.
yeah. Or like Drive to Survive doesn't really go deep into anyone beyond a team principal or the drivers.
Right.
Honestly, they just don't. And so I was like worried. I was like, well, who is Ayao Komatsu? But when I found out, like, oh, he's been with Haas since the beginning,
Since day
I'm
one
not.
is pretty
I'm
cool.
not pretty worried now. Like,
Yeah.
if he's been there the whole time, he understands. Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and he's got the engineering background to back his, why he's in the position.
Yeah.
And I think that we've seen some pretty great results this season where, they took a car that was designed pretty much last year and improved the tire degradation through the winter. It seems like that was the main focus. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's actually quite an important distinction to make. However,
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware, this is still the car that's under Gunter
It's okay. Yeah.
and
'Cause-
not from Ayao. But saying that, if you watched races like Jeddah, the previous race that just happened, you could see Ayao's and Gunter's approach, certainly on the pit wall, is very different. Because if you remember seeing Gunter on the pit wall, he kind of lean back and he just kind of watch and observe and kind of let people
and
kind of
curse
do their
And push
thing. And then
buttons to swear at people.
he pushed buttons to swear at people, and
Yeah.
but watching the like race recaps, I use like he's standing up and he's like pointing at screens and he's talking
Yeah.
to people like constantly.
What's that?
It feels
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, it's very involved. It's
Who's that? That's Kevin. Who's that? Nico.
it feels like a very different sort of team principle, and I feel like I have a huge amount of faith in Ayao, not only from the reception that I've heard within the camp of the team itself, but from the fact that we've really honed in on this idea of we need to sort the tire degradation now before any idea of big sort of like aero upgrades or upgrades to the floor. It's sort the tire deg out, because that is the killer. The race pace wasn't the issue. It was always tire deg. And now they've really got their head around it, and they utilised those testing days as well as possible because they did the most number of laps.
Yes.
It really demonstrates. And one of the things that people, always do at the beginning of this season is they look at test lap times and they go, oh, you're not the fastest. Oh, you're right at the bottom. Oh, here we go. They brought another tractor. And it's like, It's not the point of testing.
No.
It doesn't matter.
No,
it
never
does
matters.
not matter one iota.
No.
What matters is the weekend after. And actually, it really showed that Ayao has got an idea. And alongside this philosophy that Gene Haas seems to be bringing of his involvement increasing ever more, because he's been at the last 2 races.
Yeah.
He hasn't done that in previous years, apart from maybe when they like just started and they were starting in Melbourne.
Right.
Interesting.
Going along the line of the James Vowles and the Andrea Stella, going with somebody who's been an engineer to lead the team, who has an understanding of absolutely every single aspect of that car, it can't be a bad thing.
No, I mean, in Ross Brawn, I mean, the part of what we discussed last week was that Ross is the architect of the 8-time world championship car, at least the base version of it, the original.
Yeah.
And Ross's success through Ferrari and through, arguably the Mercedes period shows that the engineering backdrop to your career as a leader is a really crucial element. I mean, the guy was incredibly successful when you weigh those. The 2 pretty much most successful campaigns in F1 were Mercedes and Ferrari.
Right.
And he was involved in both. And so it's like, I think there is definitely something to say that James Vowles, who's made a significant impact at Williams already, and Ross Brawn and Ayao, this trend, Andrea Stella, that it seems like they're heading in a direction that's super positive.
Yeah.
100%. And it's not to say that Gunter, because Gunter was a race mechanic when he was in rally, when he was working with Colin McRae and Carlos Sainz Sr.
Yeah.
But having not really had a hand on a spanner for some time, really kind of doesn't help his case.
Right.
Because he then leans into the more management side. And Ayao, who's got to be doing the management side as well, who's got to be doing like relations within the team. And he's got to be making sure that, people have got like a good work-life balance and have got all the equipment that they need and so on and so forth. It's like Zach Brown isn't the person who is actually in charge of McLaren. It's an engineer who is in charge of what happens.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember you talking about potential for Gunter Steiner to be like a Zach Brown role.
Yeah.
But would that just detract from what the team is actually able to do? Because then that's another salary that they possibly couldn't afford.
Right.
Right.
And more to the point, that's probably not what Gunter wanted either. So I think it's probably been the best for everyone.
Yeah, I think recently Gunter, I think he was quoted saying, like, I think looking back now is probably a good time for me to, like, get out.
I think he said that he might have even been ready to leave sooner than he did.
But Gunter, I think he was probably good for what Haas needed in the beginning. Like, I've been listening to his book, and he just says he's, like, the best trash talker. Like, he can just talk crap.
Right.
Like, not trash, but just, like, he can just, like, shoot the breeze with anyone.
Right.
And I think that's probably what Haas needed to get off the ground as a Formula One team, to be scrappy enough to get sponsors to keep the team afloat, especially during COVID. Especially during like the whole Mazepin, Uralkali kind of garbage that was going on.
Right.
Like you needed someone who could do that. And now that the team is like established, right? And it is shown like it is valuable as a team. Ayao Komatsu seems like a great choice just for all the reasons you were saying. I also think it's like really cool that Haas seems to have this philosophy of like keeping the team together and growing together.
Right. Promotion from within is always powerful.
Bringing Kevin Magnussen back.
Right.
Like minimizing all the variables that you can so you can isolate where the problems are so you can fix them.
It's the opposite approach of Alpine. Yes, the complete opposite approach. And like, comically, what are we seeing? I mean, we're seeing direct results of consistency.
I just like to hold a candle in living memory of Alpine,
of the end stone Formula One
the
team.
vigil for the dying team.
Yeah, it is unbelievable.
But yeah, it's that idea where,
a moment of silence for our our fallen team here.
You oftentimes when you bring in a new team principal, like we give them this we'll give them a year or two to really see what they can do. Like Fred Vasseur at Ferrari, it's like last year was his first year. Like we kind of like just okay, whatever.
Right.
That year doesn't matter.
Right.
Now he's been able to make some changes.
Right.
Ayao Komatsu, he's been there the whole time.
Right.
And it seems like they just keep going from where they were going.
Right.
And just isolate the degradation problem
Totally.
and move forward.
I think that there's such value and like opportunity by exercising that exact example.
Yeah.
Keeping the team together, keeping somebody who can help push the direction. Because for sure, Ayao was already pushing
Yeah.
the directions
Totally.
of technical specs and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, one of the things in that contrast is, an Otmar Schaffenauer who comes in from Aston Martin to Alpine and they give him half a season and let him go.
Yeah.
It's like,
ridiculous.
what did you expect?
Yeah.
In 6 months that he could make an impact?
A whole new philosophy on motorsport,
Right.
and you're expecting it to change overnight.
And it's funny because I feel like in Drive to Survive, to just even quickly make a comment about Otmar, I feel like they kind of paint him as like this soft loser that like didn't belong, is like kind of the way that narrative is pointing in the episode. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's funny. He stands in front of everybody and he's like, it's all right. Tough weekend. We'll come back from it.
Yeah.
And I was watching that episode and I'm like, that was the right thing to say.
Yeah.
And then, that Bruno Famine comes in and he's like, we need execution and we need it now. And
We need the guillotine.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And so again, just to kind of echo that, I think Haas has really carried themselves in such a incredible way. Again,
Yeah.
We could be accused of maybe even being naysayers at the beginning of the year, but more so out of is this going to work? Losing Gunter.
Yeah, we loved Gunter.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think that you were right on with the time period that Gunter was team principal.
Mm-hmm.
He was probably the perfect guy for it.
Yeah.
Great at having conversations with the high ups to get Haas in the sport and making sure that it happened in a way that they all felt was fair.
Yeah.
Borrowing parts from Ferrari and stuff in the beginning. So I think he was perfect for that timeline.
For sure.
It's been funny to see people who have kind of like doubted and like sort of like mocked like me and you and all the other like Haas fans for kind of like sticking with the team for the years that we have.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they start to look a little bit good, and we're currently sixth in the championship.
Yeah.
And then people are going, oh, Haas, they've done so brilliantly. And it's like,
fair weather.
come on,
Get
now.
out of here.
Come on.
Yeah.
You've either been on the Steiner ship and been on it whilst it sank,
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
only to then see the lifeboat, the
Right.
Life-IO boat. Does that work? No. I mean, come along,
Yeah.
climb in, and stay afloat. And
Yeah.
it's great to see that it's still working and actually kind of proving everybody wrong. That yes, you can be a Formula One team with $1 bajillion worth of infrastructure and investment. But if you're a team who can hit the cost cap, but basically not much more, and you're currently sixth, fighting in this incredibly competitive field at the moment in like the midfield lower half, where you're really fighting for the 1 point.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not fighting for really anything above, I would say, eighth,
Right. Well, and
unless
I think,
something crazy happens.
Yeah.
Right. Well-
Opportunistic points.
but I think that one thing that was really apparent to me, even in hindsight, and something that I felt like Drive to Survive emphasized, Drive to Survive, I feel like this year was actually one of the times where I've watched it and I'm like, this was a great recap. You guys did a pretty good job of telling some good stories while giving some insights that I cared about.
Yeah.
Rather than making fake drama. And so with that said, they highlighted that Haas started last season strong.
Yeah.
Nico almost got a podium in Australia.
Wild. Yeah.
And there was, a few moments of brilliance throughout the season. Again, starting in 22, the car was lightning quick. Kevin got in it and finished fifth. What was it? In 22
Viking
in Bahrain?
finish,
Yeah. And so, to paint a picture, I think that one of the things that Haas is faced with is a team that has the smaller budgets, less of the infrastructure, is development pace throughout the season. I think that this year is going to be really telling on whether or not the team can overcome that.
Yeah.
as the structure that it has with Ayao as an engineer at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, again, every season we've started pretty strong.
Yeah.
We get out of the gate and we're getting close to points or getting points on the first few races, and then it starts to trail off as we head down the year. I think that what I'm seeing right now, or at least the promise and the hope is that they started with a foundational thing, tire degradation.
Mm-hmm.
If we can sort that out, then we can upgrade the car.
Yeah.
And as the season goes on, those upgrades will only provide more points and better results, and hopefully finishing higher up the order of the constructor.
Right on.
So, but I that's what I feel like I'm holding out the hope for the most at the moment.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that leads us into like the next section. So we can shift gears really, really quickly. Just talking about like Haas's performance this year.
Yeah.
Where do we expect it to go? How did you feel about Kevin Magnussen's penalty points?
Yeah, this is a great
Henry?
question.
I mean, badass. I was so
Exactly.
I was so
Is
gutted.
the FIA just out to get Haas?
I don't know if it's the FIA out to get Haas. Sometimes it feels like it does, especially in 22 when we had, copious amounts of black and orange flags.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that. I think it was a bit harsh on the second penalty, but then that kind of ended up playing into our favour, because if you're going to get a penalty of that length, you might as well just do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, you're done
at that point.
Yeah.
And then give your team the advantage, because
that's interesting.
that very, very clearly showed that in that moment, Kevin was for the team. He wasn't there in it for himself, even though he got a bit, egregious with his overtakes and the move that he did on Albon.
Right.
To do that sort of thing, to help Nico Hülkenberg, somebody who within the world of the internet have apparently got this like really big feud,
Right.
Yeah.
because of what we've got in terms of this year with silly season.
Right.
That is, I feel like, another mark on Kevin Magnussen's good list of
For sure.
He's a team player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good person to have on your side, because in a moment where it counts, he will do what you need him to do. And he isn't the sort of driver anymore who's going to fly off the handle. He's go, I should have been overtaken, or it wouldn't be like, he's not that sort of like Yuki Daniel moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's fair fighting.
Yeah.
Within the teammates, and Nico's clearly like exceptionally good at qualifying, at least in this car,
For sure.
but they're equal on qualifying, and they've got a point and they're sixth. So honestly, I don't think we could have got a better start to the year if we tried. And even in Bahrain, when we didn't score any, we were still at the top of the midfield.
The midfield. Yeah.
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 At Bahrain, a very high deg circuit.
Yeah.
Jeddah, much less so. We stood our own. We definitely brought something forward this year.
Right.
100%.
Yeah,
So I'm really keen.
Yeah, I definitely think that they're, looking at Aston Martin, looking at Visa Cash App, looking at Williams. I think that there are some within striking distance. Aston might be a lofty goal, but I think that RB is not looking that strong. Yeah.
If Stroll keeps doing what he's going to do, then
But if Fernando starts doing what he did last year.
Yeah. But at least one Aston out of the points is 1 point position.
It's true.
But
that's
available.
all it takes.
Yeah.
But like Alpine is not looking hopeful.
No.
Visa Cash App seemed like they would be a threat, and now they've come out as such a wimpy team.
I don't know
And
what's
it's
happening
sad.
there. The car's
And then
rough.
Williams is... Yeah.
When that came out and everybody was kind of like really jumping on this Visa Cash App RB bandwagon, I was like sitting as a Haas fan going, "Oh, they're not going to be brilliant."
Yeah.
And they're kind of not. And it's like, well, yeah, they're not going to be that brilliant. Where did they finish last year? It was 7th.
Right.
But then you've got a team who are then using supposedly this like connection thing between themselves and Red Bull.
Right.
They're going to be behind them
right?
who everyone is. But
Right.
if you're relying on Red Bull's development of their last year's car, then you've got to get to that point of understanding that car in the first place before you can make the advancement.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I feel like was kind of Aston Martin's downfall. I feel like they started the season strong with a package that was similar to the Red Bull last year. And then as they tried to upgrade throughout the season, it only made them go backwards.
Oh, geez.
And so I feel like maybe to that point, maybe RB's experiencing the same thing.
So it seems like Williams seems like the competitor for Haas this year.
And I kind of love that because I feel like this is pretty equals.
Right.
Which I think sometimes like the
Kinda
Haas...
like these own teams, Haas and Williams, they're both people's names.
Their surname teams.
Yeah.
and I like that they're, duking it out on recovery paths as opposed to where I would say that B team Visa RB. I kind of feel like that's an unfair thing because at some point through the season they might end up getting an upgrade that just like takes them miles ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
And but like the Williams and Haas fight feels like similar budget constraints, similar engineering and staffing. Like as soon as you get somebody awesome, someone's trying to hire them. They're fighting a very similar fight. So I like that that's the competition this year.
Henry, where do you see Haas going this year? What do you think's gonna happen?
Haas 2024 World Constructors Champion.
Exactly.
I've said this on multiple Instagram accounts. You should know.
Exactly.
I think taking Ayo's words into consideration, where he was saying, expect us to be towards the back, and we kind of aren't. I kind of want to take this year with a bit of a pinch of salt because it is his first year as TP, and I don't really want to be upping what early progress we've seen so far. I think it would be foolish to go, we're going to be, look at us, we're in P6. I think we're going to be P6, P7. It could be more realistic, I would say, whether we're stretching for the likes of P8, P9 again. But I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
It's more money. It's more prize money.
Yeah.
It's not last.
Right.
And I don't think we're going to be last. In fact, I'm not even sure Alpine's going to be last. I have a feeling that Sauber.
Sauber hasn't had a great start.
See, we haven't even thought about that.
I'm not sure they've got it in them now.
Yeah. Even though Audi has officially fully purchased the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Audi has completed the transaction. They do own Kick Sauber.
Yep.
They're just not going by their name quite yet. But I agree with you. The car this year looks terrible. I mean, it looks terrible, but it also performs terrible.
Oh, burn.
You can see it from a mile away, but my God.
Yeah.
Don't want to.
I saw someone keyed out the green and Rick rolled us with they put that. Never want to give you up. Just as like it's going around the track. All the green is just. Anyways, this is so good. But yeah, it's definitely green, chroma key green.
Yeah,
it certainly is. I would say realistic would be P8, P9, and that's what Gene Haas wants. He's not wanting P6, P7. I'm sure he'd love to take P6, P7.
Yeah,
but realistically, he wants just a slight improvement.
Definitely.
And I think we're going to get it. And my flag's fallen down probably for the fifth time.
I think your flag
I'm
represents
whether
last
I just
season
leave
well.
it. I think I might just.
Yeah, your flag needs upgrades.
My flag needs upgrades.
Is it a push rod or pull rod suspension? Okay, there's a nerd joke if I've ever heard one.
That's actually a leaf sprung.
That's most American muscle cars as well. But yeah, so I mean, I think that. What do you think, Max? What do you feel like your hope is as far as construction? I think Henry's pretty on point.
You guys are very on point, and you follow it more in depth than I do. But I do follow it, and last year it seemed like Haas would qualify really well, and then they would start the race off strong. Tire degradation would hit them hard,
right,
and send them to the back, and that seemed to be the story for every race, especially in the latter half of the season. If they have that under control, I see them fighting in the mid-pack the whole time.
Right.
which is, you're going to qualify strong and then you're going to race the whole race strong instead of falling to the back. So if that's the case, yeah, I see, 8th as very possible or 7th as 6th is like a crazy stretch. If we somehow found ourselves lucky in a big crash or mix up,
right,
and sent one of the Haas to the front for a finish,
right,
yeah, that could be a really fun season. I see that as a possibility for sure.
definitely.
I don't see us at the back. I really don't. The way that Alpine is looking with their team as it stands, it's like guaranteed we are not 10th.
Right.
Yeah. They have that for us already.
I think they might have locked that down. And like you said, if it's not them, maybe Sauber.
Yeah.
But
so I think we'll be strong. Haas has a good year ahead of them.
definitely.
Yeah.
I think I listened to Albon's Beyond the Grid interview this week, and one of the things that Tom Clarkson asked was, what's is a podium within reach of Williams this year?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, you never know.
Yeah.
He's like, you just don't.
Yeah.
And he's like, I guess at Zandvoort last season, I think he was P4 for like a good portion of the race.
That's right. He had a really good race last year.
And so he's like, I don't know, maybe something happens at Zandvoort or whatever. But I think that because we've pegged Williams in this similar spot,
Yeah.
I really do think that they're going to compete for that hopeful podium, that Alpine that we've seen over the last few years, where they are the surprise podium in Monaco or in Zandvoort, where Pierre got P3. So I think that like there's an opportunity for a Williams or a Haas to sneak on there, and so I felt like it was really possible in 22. This year is a little bit more of a stretch.
Yeah.
But you just never know.
You never know.
You never know. Sergio could have another Suzuka race.
Yeah.
We could have lots of opportunities depending
man,
on who he takes
do
out.
not need that. We do not need another Suzuka race.
Yeah.
Sergio Perez. Holy moly. I think if you look back last year at the potential opportunities that we had Australia. The biggest one, I think, for Haas.
Oh, 100%.
To this point,
in
yeah,
a
for sure.
very long time to actually even be able to get close to a podium, which was robbed.
Robbed.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
Exactly.
If Alonso wasn't a steward in the race coming over the radio, I'd be like, they have to reset it. They have to reset it. They have to reset it.
Right. You had Canada. Nico Hulkenberg qualified second.
Right.
And he loves the Canadian circuit. So
Yeah.
if he's got a good car again underneath him, and if they understand what that kind of car is going to do, like last year,
Yeah.
I mean, again, who knows what sort of magic is going to happen. Monaco, Kevin Magnussen, it was so close when all of the rain started coming down and it became like an ice rink at Monaco last year. There was a moment where there was a point that Kevin Magnussen could have pitted and he would have been within the top 5.
Yeah. It
But
was
he went
between
one lap too long.
Lance's second or third crash, I think, is when he could have pitted.
Yeah.
That might have actually got him in the top 5 somewhere in that window. Anyways, yeah.
But he went like a lap or 2 laps longer, and then he had a smash, and then had to come into the pit and change his front wing. But if he come in like a lap earlier, he would have been within top 5, and that would have made an enormous difference.
Yeah,
to the
beat a
outcome
few
of
teams. Yeah.
of the championship. But I think, considering the strategy that we managed to call in Jeddah, I think being able to understand and utilize strategy in a really quick moment has now all of a sudden become this opportunity for Haas, where there is a moment of, we can make a pit stop now, or we can do this, and it's going to benefit all of us, instead of what they used to do was just to run to the tyres.
Right.
And you go, we're 2
the
laps
super-
in, and
super
the tyres
hopeful
are now
strategy.
already dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, the like pit now and a safety
Super
car
helpful.
comes out, we might get in the points or something.
Is that kind of how it was with Gunther, where it was we hope for something to happen?
Kind of, it felt like.
And
at least.
and that's how we're going to get points, is we're going to hope for our opportunity and bank on it.
Right.
Otherwise, we can't really do anything.
I mean,
Right.
to be
Whereas-
fair,
yeah.
to be fair, that happens a lot with a lot of teams because they have all of the statistics from previous races
Right.
or previous years.
It's a strategy.
Circuit,
Yeah.
and they'll go,
And
okay,
it's data
on
backed.
average, it's like one safety car, or if it's like two safety cars for somewhere like Jeddah, but then it never came.
Yeah.
Right.
We never had a safety car in Bahrain. So
Yeah.
all 20 cars finished, which never happened on a season opener.
Yeah. It's crazy. The reliability is so
you
high
know,
right now.
It wasn't just Haas doing it, but they were doing strategies which were led by Gunter, as far as I'm aware, that were probably less than desirable because they were pitting so early,
Just
and trying
optimistic.
to undercut in a ridiculous fashion.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that we've seen this year as well is that both Haas and Ferrari have overcome tire drag. And it seems like that was the Achilles heel to both. I think it's hard to weigh Ferraris a little because Red Bull has 0 tire drag. Max was complaining that at the end of Jeddah, he was getting stuck behind back marker cars. And because the tires were so cold, he couldn't navigate them. And it's like the tires were cold, Max. They've been out for like 50 laps at that point. I don't know what he pitted, but
Yeah, he's crazy.
I'm like, oh,
There was one thing I wanted to pull you up on, which
What's that?
was I think he said last episode that Kevin Magnussen had managed to. He had the 20-second penalty,
yes.
and he was P11, and
Or
he
P12.
was-
P12.
Or yeah, what did he end up finishing?
No, he was P11.
Yes.
He finished 12th.
Because of the penalty.
But that wasn't because he was going that much faster. It was because Max had lapped cars.
Oh, okay.
And K-Mag was the last one to get lapped. But he didn't. He got to the checkered flag. He did his final lap without Max passing him. Therefore, it didn't count.
Which also just means he's a gangster.
Yeah.
Either way, he's still a gangster. Yeah, he'd beat Max.
Yeah, exactly.
On cold tires, he'd beat Max to the flag. But that makes sense now. I was like, how is that possible to only follow a position with 20 seconds? But that makes perfect sense now. It's one of the things where the TV coverage is a very hard thing to base all of information off of.
It was like a full week later that we discovered Daniel Ricciardo had a 42-second pit stop.
Yeah,
That was wild.
Everyone was like, Daniel Ricciardo. I've seen like Ralph Schumacher and like Eddie Jordan and everyone being like, Daniel's not proving anything right now. And I'm like, does a 42-second pit stop in the second race mean anything to you?
Does that affect a race at all?
Yeah, and yes, he got past Yuki because of team orders, but anyways, it just seems like there's very interesting evaluation after 2 races at a terrible race car.
How do you feel, Max, about the Daniel Ricciardo situation this year?
I get very gutted. I just hold him so highly, and I just want him to have a good car. Just give him a good car, and then let's see. But like when you just watch those cars just fall down, I'm like, well, Yuki's getting slow too. They can't pass anyone.
Yeah.
Daniel had a 42-second pit stop. What the hell do you want him to do with that?
Right. And
then you can't get past Logan Sargent. Like, I'm like, this car is not performing. Yeah, it hurts me. Hurts me to my core.
Actually, you just reminded me of something.
But it's good because Haas is performing. So it's like Daniel's car just sucks, but then Haas does really good. So I'm like, it's all balancing out.
Well, I think this actually points out an interesting thing that I was thinking while we were talking is that like where Williams and Haas are going to kind of juggle this same position all season, one benefit and something that was kind of the foresight of Gunter was 2 experienced drivers. One thing that Williams is really going to have a hard time with is whether or not Logan can deliver as well as Albon can.
Yeah.
And so our opportunity is pretty 50-50 for points. Whereas if you were going to say likelihood, Albon is 70-30 or something
he's gonna be pulling
on
the
Logan.
weight.
And so I think that's where that is looking really optimistic for
That
Haas.
is cool.
Yeah. I think it's early on Daniel. I think it's early for people to be...
It's all early in the season.
Yeah.
We have like 20 more races, 22 more races.
Yeah.
How many races are this year? 30?
24. 30.
There are so
36.
many. There are so many.
Yeah. But I think...
50, 59.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that when it comes to Yuki and Daniel, the thing that sucks about it is that I like both of these drivers. I actually think they both have huge potential. We've seen Daniel's potential fully realized.
Yeah.
We haven't really with Yuki. But one of the things that I hate about it is that I hate that they are in this situation that is like we're going to make them so pegged against each other this season. It'll create great drama and fun to watch things. But at the end of the day, that basically is going to promote one and lose the other, which is just kind of sucks.
For Christmas, I got a candle from my brother-in-law. And it says it's a Daniel Ricciardo Grand Podium win candle.
Yeah.
So I light it for every race. I have a little seance.
You just
and
have
a little vigil so that Daniel Ricciardo will perform well. And it seems to be performing the opposite.
We've seen the Alpine vigil from the Haas Chap, and you have one. So
maybe lighting candles is sending cars to the back.
Yeah, maybe we need to stop with the candle stuff. It's a curse. It's a curse.
Henry, the Haas Chap Wallace, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you.
Taking time away from your new baby. Congrats on the baby.
Yes, congrats on the addition to the Haas family.
And taking time away from your rising star in the Haas Chap world.
Yes.
We will have you on a lot this season.
Yeah.
We're kind of firing on all cylinders right now.
Yes.
We need a lot more Haas correspondents and Haas talk.
Yes.
I will be at Silverstone on Saturday this year.
Oh,
just for Saturday though. I won't
just
be
for
doing
the qualifying
weekend.
session. Amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
You'll have to get us more posters we can hang up.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you don't follow the Haas Chap, follow him on Instagram, on TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact name, but just search Haas Chap. He's the only chap that's hossing it.
Yeah, totally.
And then follow us, listen to us on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, watch us on YouTube, follow us on Instagrams and TikToks. We have a lot coming out.
Yes, and we appreciate everyone for submitting questions, and we will get to more of those
next week.
So thanks for tuning in.
Does he smell good?
He smells divine. If you could imagine